What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new, make sure to go up here and hit subscribe. That would really help me out. And check out some of my past videos. But in today's video, we're going to be going over the arrows that I'm hunting with this fall. These are the Easton Axis. These are the match grade series. This is the 260 spine, and this total arrow weight with no luminoc comes out to 494 grains. Once we get the luminoc in there, that'll bump us up over the 500 mark. And out of my 80-pound RX1, this arrow shoots at 300 foot a second, so it still has pretty flat trajectory. And according to Realtree's kinetic energy calculator, I put in all the numbers for my bow, the arrow weight and speed. This arrow coming out of my RX1 has a 98.5 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. So whenever we got our razor sharp Muzzy Trocar on here come this fall, it should crush anything that I shoot. So I'm pretty excited for that. Also, as you guys can see, we got the Delph 23 Outdoors logo tees, and then we'll get into the arrow building. So I'll see you guys inside. So we still have a half dozen of the Easton Axis 5mm match grade shafts. So what I have is the shaft itself. I've already cleaned all these shafts. You're gonna want to clean them with like isopropyl alcohol is what I've used. And then I got a box of blazers, and then some of the tiger print blazer wraps, and then I got the Boeing jig as well. So what I use to glue them on is actually just super glue. I used to use some other glue, but I wasn't a huge fan of how it was turning out. So I started using this, and it started working for me pretty good, and I've kind of just been using it ever since. But what I use to roll these wraps on is this old iPad case, because it's pretty soft like a mouse pad. I'll get in close on these to show you guys, but yeah, I use this, and it works really well for me. So what you do is you just put the wrap down, get it square, grab your shaft of choice. For me, like I said, it's the match grade Easton Axis. Get it lined up with the end, and then push forward until you start to move that wrap. Okay, the wrap just barely started to move. So I'm going to go ahead and push it on there, and make sure your hands are clean for this, because you don't want to dirty up the wrap or dirty up the shaft as you're putting it on there. Now I did get the standard size arrow wraps, so they're just a touch heavier, and there's probably, I would say, about a little under a 1/4 inch of overlap there, and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. But all in all, I think they fit really well. And then after this, you move all of this crap out of the way, put it up there, put the wraps up there, and then we get the jig ready. So with the jig, you just put the arrow in there, and we have it lined up where our starting point is, and we're actually going to twist it just a touch so we don't put any arrow or any fletchings right on that top seam. So once you get that done, like I said, I have a little mark on my fletching jig here, on where I put the fletchings in at. I plop one of them in there, and then I put some glue on it. Now I keep the napkin here just so it doesn't get messy, because I don't want to get any glue on the wood table. So that's why I have that here. Okay, there we go. And then what I do is I just put a couple drops at the mouth of it, and then I just drag a little bottle of glue right along it, just to kind of spread it out, because you don't want to put too much. That looks pretty good. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And then you go ahead and line it up very carefully, and then press it down. And I typically hold for about 10 or 15 seconds to let the, I don't want to let the glue cure, but kind of cure almost. So then you open it up, lift it off there. Now your fingers are probably going to get a little bit of glue on them, because I always wipe off any excess that may have leaked over. And you flip it to the next one, and then you basically just repeat that process. If you're doing a 3 fletch like I am. Now another thing I do is I put them in there before I glue them at all, and I make sure they're lining up good, because if they're not lining up good, then you want to keep an eye on that, because you don't want the arrow to be, I'll show you what I mean. But you want your fletchings to be properly distanced, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, this dude on there. Make sure your arrow's seated. Count to 15 in your head. Then bada bing, bada boom. Like he said, wipe the edges off, rotate it. And so this is super glue, like I said. So it normally cures pretty quick, but I typically like to let it sit for a little while just to make sure. I at least let them sit for about 4 hours before I'd even think about shooting them. Just because I'd hate for a fletching to come off, because then you have to redo the whole arrow, which is kind of a pain. Ask me how I know. There's that one. Oh, I put a little bit too much glue on this. You kind of just want to dab the glue off the end of it, hold it down, and then dab the glue off the end. Alright, do the 15-second hold. Alright. Then you carefully lift it out of there. The helical looks good on it. Everything looks like it's spaced properly. And then you just go ahead and reset your jig. But there's what I was telling you about, just to make sure everything is equally spaced and looks good. But this arrow turned out really good. And then we're going to let it dry for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we're going to go back through and tip and tail the ends of it. Alrighty guys, so I did end up getting the rest of the arrows fletched up. So with tipping and tailing, I know I said something about that in the last clip. What that is you basically take a dot of super glue and you put it on the front of the vane as well on the back of the vane. And you do that for all of them, whether you do a 4-fletch or a 3-fletch. All that does is it basically just adds a little bit of extra glue to keep the vane attached to the arrow. But I'm pretty excited to run a couple of these through some whitetails this fall, and we'll see how that goes. So stay tuned for that. I'm pretty pumped about it. Also, in the next couple weeks, I'm going to be making a how to tune fixed blade broadheads video. So make sure to also stay tuned for that. And I'm going to be going over my run and gun setup and what I'm taking into the woods this fall. As far as my hang and hunt system. So be on the lookout for those couple videos, and as well as the t-shirts. So I also said something about that at the very beginning of this video, but be on the lookout for those things. And if you guys like this video, give it a big thumbs up. That would really help me out, and subscribe if you're not already. But I'll see you guys in the next one.